So, Nitro 93, also June 23rd, 1997.
Now, I will not go back and say this show was not boring, because I'm sure it was.
Oh, yeah.
I suspect you're right. Gene opens the show by bringing out DDP and Kimberly for a promo.
Her stomach.
Her everything.
She's a lovely woman. He wants to know who Paige's surprise partner is going to be against Randy Savage and Scott Hall. Paige says he loves surprises, how much he enjoys Christmas and birthdays because he has to open presents. And he wants to keep his partner a secret until Bash at the Beach. And Kimberly says she hates surprises. So I thought her next line was going to be, I'm going to withhold sex until Paige tells me who his partner is. But no. Her next line was, I called J.J. Dillon and booked a match between Paige and Scott Hall. All right.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't a very good promo, but...
I would do what she says.
Sure.
Just saying.
Man.
Yeah. Hey, there's nothing wrong with putting Kimberly on TV. What's the opposite of a dream match? I know I asked that a lot reviewing Nitro.
What are you talking about? Public Enemy and Damien
Public
LaParca?
Enemy versus
Do
LaParca
not
and
denigrate
Damien.
this match.
Why not?
It was bad, but
It was terrible.
it was funny.
Okay, I'll give that. It may have been
Johnny
so bad.
Grunge's absolutely hideously hilarious comeback. Where at one point, I believe he just pushed LaParca and then turned around and just kept doing other stuff.
Yes.
He's like, I'll touch you and you just go flying because I'm tired.
He shoved him.
This was four. Sometimes it'd be two men on two different pages. This was four men, so you think four different pages. There were at least 9 different pages in this match.
Hey, at least these guys knew enough to get a table that would break.
They got a table that was break, or as Heyman would shout, it's pre-cut. So
It wasn't pre-cut. It was just not a shit table.
Yeah. So they put Damien through a table, and then Parka hit Grunge with a chair and pinned him, and then I wrote, let's just never speak of this again.
Let me explain something to all the listeners out there. Maybe there were companies that pre-cut their tables, but you don't want to pre-cut a table.
No.
What you want is a table. If you imagine a table that you see on Raw all the time, which is just your normal, what kind of wood is it, Craig?
Just plywood.
Plywood, particle board, whatever, with the legs on it. Don't pre-cut it. You want it to be able to hold a man, but when another man goes through it, it breaks, and that breaks your fall.
It's a cushion.
You don't want a pre-cut table where you're going to go through it like butter because that fucking hurts.
You land on the floor.
Number one. And you don't want a table that's so goddamn hard that you got to jump 3 times to break the leg.
Yeah.
Just do a normal table.
I noticed in WCW, they took off the metal that goes underneath those tables.
Bad idea.
They would break easier.
Yeah, but you go through that like butter.
Yeah, and then you land on the floor.
These are heavy men here.
It's like, I did one hardcore match with Tim, and maybe it didn't surprise me, but people don't seem to realize that we're falling off the top rope to the floor. It's much better to have a table between you and said floor.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
At least one, maybe 2.
Dude, it's much better to have it between you and anything you're falling on.
Yes.
Although I do remember when I was very young and dumb, and we were doing shows at the gymnastics facility, I had this great idea.
Shows, he says.
I was Savio Vega. These were shows. Dude, I had King 5 News covering these shows.
Oh.
So I had this great idea, which was, we had they're called spotting blocks, probably 4 or 5 feet high. And I was going to stack a few of them up so we were like 10 feet in the air. And I was going to have Chris Kelly powerbomb me. And my idea was, in order to not die, because I'm falling from a very great height, I'm going to stack up 3 plywood boards so that each one successively will break more of my fall as I go down to the ground. I thought I'm so brilliant. Now, the good news is, it really broke my fall.
Mm-hmm. Probably on the first one.
The bad news was, when I went through the first one, and then I started going through the second one, the remains of the first one fell on me. And then I went through the second one, and the remains of the first and the second one fell on me. And then I went through the third one, and the remains of all 3 fell on me. It was like a fucking Wile E. Coyote cartoon, where he falls off the cliff, and then the boulder falls on top of him.
I'm honestly legit flabbergasted you went through all 3.
I
did you
did.
weigh 120 pounds
Dude,
then?
they were like, I don't know, ½ thick. They were very, very thin.
I see.
But I learned a valuable lesson. That's why you don't go through multiple fucking tables. You just find one goddamn table to go through.
There's no way they were ½ inch.
An inch thick, I don't know what they were.
There's
whatever
no way
they
they're
were.
an inch thick.
What were they?
They're probably 1/8.
1/8 inch, yeah, whatever.
3/8.
Whatever. I went through them like butter,
And then the butter fell on you.
and then that fucking butter fell on me.
Sharp, pointy
I was
butter.
like popcorn.
Eddie Guerrero joined Gene for a promo. Eddie insisted he was a stand-up kind of guy who would never force his nephew into a match he didn't want. Then he said he was still not medically cleared, and Chavo had offered to take that match, and Eddie had stepped aside. This would mean that WCW booked Eddie for a match even though he was not medically cleared. Chavo came out and said he hadn't really offered to take the match, but before he could say anything else, Eddie cut off and said, "Look, let's not worry about the past. I've got a match with Six tonight, but I'll step aside and you can get a title shot." Chavo was not sure what to make of this, but at the end of the day, he was not turning down a free championship match. Alex Wright versus Chris Jericho.
Better than last time.
Much better than last time.
How did Alex Wright get a job? I know he's a good-looking kid.
Dad was a wrestler.
Okay.
Good-looking kid.
He
Tall.
he was pretty.
And?
Showed up on time.
Dude, they had like 200. They had like more than 200. They had like 250 people under contract at one point. And Alex Wright's the one that you just can't handle.
We just watched Public Enemy.
We just watched Johnny Grunge.
Your point is...
He can come back on Luchadors.
Your point is valid.
God. I wanted to never speak of that again.
Let me give Larry some credit here. Larry, of course, has to bury everybody and put himself over. But Larry did say, these guys are moving way too fast.
Yes,
And
I saw that too.
For the first time in his life, he was absolutely correct. They were moving way too damn fast, and they should have listened to him. Would have been a better match.
Chris Jericho in 97 was wrestling like Dolph Ziggler in 2016. Going too damn fast.
Remember that time we saw Larry at the barbecue joint in Florida? Mm-hmm. Just stood there and looked at him.
Go back in the archives and listen to when I interviewed Larry.
That's the more impressive.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, Jericho was going too fast. He also hit he calls that the lion salt, according to Mike Tenay. So
To a
it's,
standing opponent.
so it's his fault.
Yeah.
And Jericho won with the Boston Crab. A vast improvement over the last match. And because Jericho got offense. Here was where they tried to show, this is the worst of it. They tried to show Vincent interfering in the tag match at the pay-per-view, and I couldn't see it. I spent a good 5 minutes trying to get the show running again. Steiners versus Harlem Heat.
I hope you saw this match.
This was something.
This was... what this was every tag match you ever saw, except about once a minute, one of the Steiners would do something amazing.
To me, it was a match where sometimes it was great, and sometimes it was sloppy.
There's a lot of sloppiness.
It really depended on who was throwing around who and when.
Yes.
The best part of this match, which every single young wrestler on earth should watch this match so that they can see Rick Steiner and Booker T doing a vertical suplex spot. You have never seen two men get more out of a vertical suplex. So great.
So eventually, Sherry climbs in the apron. Rick throws Booker into her, knocks her to the floor, and then he hit Booker with the top rope bulldog for the win.
Top Rope Bulldog looked bad because Rick basically kneed him in the head as he was coming off the ropes. Man, that looked bad.
And, yeah, he made the cover, and the ref's counting 3, and Steve Ray's blocking the camera, so we couldn't see really what's going on. But at one point, the ref just stopped counting, and everyone looked at each other, and the bell rang. So I assume he was down for a 3 count. Vicious and Delicious joined Gene for a promo. Said the Steiners cannot possibly be top contenders for the tag titles because Scott Steiner's arms were too skinny. And then Buff flexed. You know,
Buff was funny.
Buff has definitely had his moments, man. And they called the Steiners out, but then when the Steiners came to answer, they ran away because they're great heels. Steiners then completely blew them off. I don't know exactly what they said. There was more buffering. They called out Hall and Nash. Had a video of Ernest Miller doing karate.
This karate fella, I didn't write his name down. He's putting over Ernest, and he says this Ernest Miller his quickness is unparalleled for a man his size. Especially, he says, considering how karate has advanced here in the 90s.
Yes.
And I'm like, give me a break, dude. We've all seen UFC. You're trying very, very hard here to put over karate.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will say, all they showed Ernest doing was working some heavy bags and doing some very, very light sparring, but he did look like a badass.
Well, hey, I'll tell you this. jumping forward a little bit, but this match with Ernest Miller, this was Ernest Miller's first ever professional wrestling match.
He looked great then.
He looked great. He worked the ropes great. He was a point karate guy, which is where you're not doing full contact karate. You got to pull all your kicks and everything like that. So obviously he threw great kicks and never touched anybody. Worked the ropes great. Very, very athletic. He was called the Cat for a reason. But the problem was, from this point forward, he never learned how to work.
Pretty much.
He started at a certain level and stayed at that level for his entire career. If he would have actually applied himself, if he would have liked wrestling, he could have been really fucking good. I guess he taught Eric Bischoff's kid karate. So Eric was like, you want to be a pro wrestler and make hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Yes.
And do virtually no work?
Yes.
And Ernest said, I do. Yes, I do. Villano 4 versus Hector Garza.
They just pull names out of a hat.
Grab any two Mexican men backstage.
Hector Garza, dude, Hector Garza in Villano 4 is a lot less weird than the Public Enemy versus La Parka and Damien.
I told you I don't want to speak of it anymore, but you're right.
Match was just about as good.
It's just a bunch of moves.
This was just boring. The other one was sloppy and hysterical, but this was just really, really boring. I did laugh. Garza did like a backflip, landed on his backflip with ropes, landed on his feet, and into another backflip, and then Villano just clotheslined him to death. That was funny.
What was notable about this match was the announcers just bickered the whole time.
Because they were bored too.
Well, Larry goes, is this a Mexican rules match? And Tenay goes, what, are you worried about tags? It's a singles match. And Larry goes, I know it's a singles match, but is it Mexican rules? So they're bickering back and forth, and now Larry's mad that he's been questioned.
He's confused.
And so at the end of the match, Hector Garza does a body slam, and he turns around, and he's facing a corner. And Tony Schiavone says, he's going back up top. And instead, Garza does a standing moonsault, and Larry goes, oh, he went back up on top, Tony. And then, as they do the replay, he's burying Tony the entire time for being wrong about this guy going back up top. I'm like, fuck off, all of you. This ain't even a funny bit. It's just shit.
This is a boring match that nobody cared about. Luger and Giant came out for a promo, trying to be very serious about being humiliated and spray painted last week. They're going to use that to fuel their revenge.
It's boring.
Giant said, I'm going to put a hook in the worm.
That was a funny line, actually.
And they talked some more, and it did, in fact, go too long, and it was boring.
Listen, I'm not Craig. I'm not constantly noticing everybody's fashion on this show, but
Yes.
Luger with his sleeveless checkered shirt tucked into his tight jeans with a belt. What the fuck was this? He looked like an idiot.
Fresh off the farm.
May as well have been wearing an elephant in the ring.
I have a cousin who lives in Atlanta, and many years ago he was working at a shoe store when Lex Luger and his kids came in. And from what he's described, this is how Lex dresses, or at least how he did 20 years ago. Gold chains, sleeveless shirt tucked into jeans, and big heavy combat boots. Chavo Guerrero Jr. versus Six. Very simple story. Chavito was the clear underdog, so Six took 80% of the match. He's giving him some hope spots and near falls at the end when Eddie came out to watch, but just stood on the ramp and scowled. So Chavo hits a dive to the floor and gets back in the ring. As the ref is counting Six out, Hall hits the ring, lays Chavo out with the outsider's edge. Eddie is just still scowling from the stage, and then Six puts Chavo in the chicken wing for the win. Eddie was very disappointed.
It's fine.
Yeah, it really was.
It was good. Six, when he does those leg drops, that he's just moving, you can hardly even see what he's actually doing. Kind of annoys me. Six is awesome. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
I don't know why that was so funny. I guess that's not where I thought you were going with that.
Super, super fast leg drops. It just doesn't mean.
Okay.
It just doesn't mean anything. It just, I don't know.
It's just a series of leg drops.
It's nonsense, Vinny. Nonsense.
I guess we were just yelling at Chris Jericho for going too fast.
Michinoku driver looked really cool.
Six, if you're listening, slow down the leg drops.
Yeah, quit doing those shitty leg drops.
Yeah,
It makes
you're gonna-
Craig mad.
Break your butt again.
That's why I had X-Pac heat.
That must be it. The leg drops.
Yes, that's it.
All right. I'm trying to get through these next two segments without getting angry.
Good luck.
Stephen Michael versus Konnan.
Again,
Last week.
Again, 2 names and a hat.
Last week, Mongo turned on his tag team partner, Jeff Jarrett, gave him a tombstone pile driver, dropping him on his head and compressing his spine in the middle of the ring. Mm-hmm. One would think Jeff Jarrett would now be out of the Horsemen.
I would.
One would be wrong. They explained that Jeff Jarrett is on, quote, Horseman probation.
Double secret probation.
So that feud just won't die. Speaking of feuds going absolutely nowhere, Hugh Morris came up with a broom. He distracted Konnan. Mongo won with a tombstone.
I still can't believe they gave him that finisher.
Hey, he hasn't hurt anybody yet.
Yet.
This was not horrible. I cannot say that it was any good.
They may have taught him how to do tackles and the one tombstone and just left it at that. Just make sure you can do
Fuck
that.
more does Mongo need?
It's true.
You know what I'm doing? Tactical wrestling?
No.
Please, no.
Had a Chris Benoit highlight video to hype up his match with Kevin Sullivan. Gene brings out Roddy Piper for a promo.
This.
You know, this was one of those interviews where I think that Roddy thought that he was being so clever. But in reality, he was a raving lunatic. And I didn't understand a goddamn word he said.
They have the Wellness program in WCW at this time.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. That's
Do you watch this show?
I apologize.
So Gene brings this man out for a promo, and his first question, and I should have written it down word for word, but in essence he asked, are you and Ric Flair still friends? Are these 7th grade girls? Are you still friends?
Pass him a note, check the box, yes or no.
So, Piper dodges the question, spends about 5 minutes talking about what a bad guy he himself was, and finally he said, yes, we're still friends, but Flair dates 2 women, so they'll have something to talk to after he falls asleep.
That's a great line.
This brings out Flair all pissed off. Flair's talking about he's fighting the NWO while Piper is out, quote, floating around the Caribbean with Jenny McCarthy.
What?
What the fuck?
Roddy didn't deny it.
No.
Because these old guys, they're all about, we're going to put each other over, brother. One way or the other.
So they're mad at each other. Out come Mongo, Deborah, and Benoit. And it's these 3 people, Piper and Flair. Piper says, this is between me and Flair. And Gene decides, as this is going on, hey, Deborah, what's up with Jeff Jarrett?
Well, what'd she say?
She dumped him. I don't even know.
She said she discarded him like yesterday's laundry.
Yeah. So Flair and Piper both wanted to leave and let this go, but Mongo wouldn't let it go. He's putting his finger in Piper's chest and making fun of his skirt. Flair is trying to make peace, trying to get Piper out of there so he can still be friends with everyone and they can still all go drinking together. Fans are chanting Roddy's name. Mongo warns Flair that Piper will stab him in the back. Benoit begins to make fun of Piper's spine. The whole time, Flair is begging Mongo and Benoit to just shut up. Finally, Piper can take no more. He decks Benoit, he decks Mongo. The only good thing in this entire segment. Upon seeing the Horseman get punched, Ric Flair throws a tremendous tantrum. He's stomping, he's screaming, he's jumping up and down like a small child. He bounces up the ropes, and then at the end of the day, Damien is a Horseman. He throws a punch at Roddy. Roddy blocks. He briefly comes back. Eventually, he is briefcased and triple-teamed. At least there was a payoff to all this.
What I got out of this was they let Mongo hit him with a Halliburton, and they let Mongo stomp on him as Benoit had him in the crossface. Mm-hmm. Wow. They had a lot of faith in this Mongo guy.
I like the fact that Rick didn't want to hit him, but Piper struck first on his boys. And so he had to hit him.
Yes.
It was great.
Because at the end of the day, he's a Horseman first.
Right.
As we all are.
We wish. Glacier and Ernest Miller versus High Voltage. You are right in that Ernest Miller totally fine here. You're not mentioned it went like 90 seconds.
You know who didn't look fine? This Rage.
Or was it Chaos?
His Rage. I have no idea how I know the difference.
It's Blake.
I can't tell Blake and Murphy apart. I think I can, maybe. But like Blake and Murphy and the Revival,
The Naturals.
for some reason I have a way easier time
Hot shots.
knowing the difference between Rage and Chaos. I don't even know why. But anyway, Rage did the funniest missed springboard front flip splash ever. He fucking springboards. He goes like 1,000 feet in the air. He still barely gets his ass over. And he just crashes.
Was it as funny as the time he tried this and almost went out the other side of the ring?
That was funnier.
Okay.
This was pretty funny, though.
I forgot about that until right now. Anyway, yes, Glacier kicked one of them, and Ernest did a double jump kick off the top rope and pinned the other.
That was so dumb. He's like facing one way, and then he jumps and he does a half turn.
Yeah.
And
So
then
that he
jumps
can
and
jump
does
backwards.
another half turn so that he can face the exact same direction he started in, and then he does his kick.
Yeah.
It's like a double trouble in paradise.
It was just showing off.
Yeah, it was dumb. But hey, guy looked all right.
Glacier and Mortis ran down to ringside. Or, excuse me, Wrath and Mortis. Correct my notes here.
Please.
Terrible
We do
mistake.
not want the figure 4 to be an inaccurate record of this show from 19 years ago.
Wrath and Mortis came down to ringside, but Glacier and Miller saw them coming, and they backed off. Had a Hulk Hogan, Dennis Rodman highlight video. It was all posing and mugging and making faces for the camera and having wacky costumes.
Neat.
Dallas Page versus Scott Hall.
You know, Diamond Dallas Page was a really good worker, and Scott Hall was a really good worker, and they were both friends, and they had the most boring match. I couldn't even believe it. How could this match have been this boring?
I
Maybe-
want to say, go ahead.
All I can think is maybe they realized there's going to be a DQ finish. Who gives a shit? No one's watching Raw.
Well, there's that.
Why? I don't know. It's just like, I've never seen two friends who are good workers have a more boring match together.
Seen it 100 times with brothers, though.
Well, yeah.
That's true, actually. So, 6 months ago, whatever it was, I was absolutely tearing Rick Bogner apart for his performance of the fake Razor Ramon. After watching Razor for 2 weeks here, I can at least see what Bogner was going for. He was, in fact, doing a terrible Scott Hall impression, but Hall, when he's selling punches, he actually does have this little bird flapping thing he does. Now, Bogner took that and cranked it up to 24, but I can at least see what he was trying to do. Other than that, yeah, nothing of note happened. Hall came out with Savage and Elizabeth. Paige sent Kimberly to the back. And Paige signaled for the Diamond Cutter. Savage attacked for the DQ. They're beating him up until Sting appears in the stands. He's pointing his bat at the ring. And they cut to a wide shot. Paige is down in the ring helpless. Scott Hall is standing over him. Randy Savage is on the top rope. Sting is yonder, 50 yards away or more, and upstairs. He's pointing a bat at them, and time freezes. I'm wondering, Randy, I guarantee if you jump and hit this elbow now, you will land before Sting hits the ring. You may have time to run up and hit another one.
He did. He did, in fact, hit 2 elbows before Sting finally got down there.
But he waited a long time to do it.
Well, the story was he was hypnotized.
See.
I don't know why.
Yeah. So he had a couple elbows. Sting hit the ring finally. So much garbage hitting the ring for all this, by the way. Which is funny. They magically knew not to throw the garbage until the match had ended and Sting was there and stuff. They didn't throw the garbage when the NWO came out. So there is a long stare down between Sting, Hall, and Savage. And just as the show ends, they hit the ring. He fought them off with his bat, and that was that. Such
a boring show. It's kind of amazing. Like, the shows have been so good lately, and then 1 week they just are both boring as all hell. I don't even know why. There's just nothing to this.
It happens.
I guess so. Hopefully it will be better next time. All right, everybody, that's it. There's a lot of shows up on the front page. Dave and I did a breaking audio on Roman Reigns, Observer Live, all about Roman Reigns. I'm sure we'll talk more about him tomorrow as well. And then Dave and I will be back tomorrow night. Observer's up tomorrow, so check that out. And that is it all. We'll talk to you again after a while.
Good night.
Bye.